Hello, I am the gaming superhero, and today I am making a kit for the X-Men's fearless and wise leader. Hey, put a picture of a loser up here. There we go, perfect. The X-Men's great leader, Professor X. Now, I actually talked about his first appearance in X-Men #1 last week because it is the same first appearance as Beast, but luckily I planned for this and left out any Professor-specific details for this breakdown, so let's get into it. We open with the Professor sitting alone in a room when he summons the X-Men. They all come in and Iceman does a striptease. He makes them run a test to see how well they have progressed. Beast tests balance, the Professor tries to kill Angel. Charlie then gives Iceman a false sense of security before having the Beast chuck a bowling ball at him. He deflects it back at him. Then Cyclops is tested by having him just beat the shit out of his teammates. But then Jean Grey arrives, or Marvel Girl as she is dubbed by Professor X, who further explains what the X-Men are. They are children of the atom, each of them having parents that lived near or were involved with radiation of some form, including the Professor himself, who says he is the first mutant, using what I assume is the Pokemon logic of firsts. He also explains that the X in X-Men stands for extra powers, and is totally not an abbreviation of his last name. Anyway, Magneto takes over the military base with magic because it sure as hell ain't magnetism. He sends the X-Men to stop him, where they each find their own way of getting through the crowd. Angels being the only one with respect for personal space. They fight Magneto with no input from Charlie, but they head back to the mansion with Professor X saying the thing that becomes like a relevant call to arms for the X-Men for another 60 years. And that is the first appearance of Professor X. The quick notes version, anyway. There are more details in the Beast video. But with that, let's get into his kit. I have made him a support. I also want to emphasize that he would definitely be in the chair, okay? None of this standing upright bullshit. If he ain't in the chair, I don't want it. But anyway, his primary fire is a psychic blast that functions similar to a shotgun. That is very close ranged, so he can't fight long range, but if someone like Spider-Man or Iron Fist come to gank him, they will be met with, at most, a 2-shot kill. I also gave him a secondary fire that is similar to Scarlet Witch primary, except it heals allies instead of damaging enemies. No movement or melee because he's in a wheelchair, and giving him these things would defeat the point. I did give him a passive. It basically gives him shields, like from Overwatch, a bit of health that will just regenerate after a few seconds of taking no damage, without need for heals. I'm thinking like a 250 base normal health, and 50 shield health, making the total 300 because he has no mobility and a very large hitbox due to the wheelchair. But this segues nicely into Ability 1, Mental Fortification. Give up to 3 allies 100 shield health that functions like the Professor's. It will last until the ally dies or until the Professor relocates the shield to a different ally. This is an idea I stole from old Symmetra, and I mean day 1 release Symmetra, where she could give you shield health. A very nice thing to give backlined allies or dive tanks that frequently leave line of sight. The amount could be tweaked if 100 is too much, but that's ultimately irrelevant to the main premise of the ability. Ability 2 is Fast Teaching. Deploy a field around Professor X that decreases the cooldowns of allies. By how much? I don't know, but there would be a lot of factors, like how long the field actually lasts, because you only get the benefit when in the field, even though it's not like the cooldowns will revert if you step out, but you get what I mean. But yeah, this is a very dangerous ability that would need careful balancing. Also, the benefit does not apply to ultimates, just regular abilities. This makes it a little easier to balance, but still not great. The ultimate is the exact same one I gave Emma Frost, but since she came out and didn't have this ult, I get to repurpose it. That, and I even say in the original video that it better fits Charles Xavier. I have called it no showing off. Create a dome around Mr. X that freezes enemies, making them unable to move or use abilities, while allies can. And that's it. No healing or damage resistance. just getting free kills on any enemy stuck in the dome, which I think is strong enough on its own. Although Professor X can move and use his abilities while the dome is active, similar to Mantis not being limited while using ult. This is clearly inspired by the scene in X2 where Charles freezes the room to keep his students' powers a secret. It also gets reused in a few of the sequels, so it's become a bit of an iconic move of his. So I felt it was perfect to put into the game as his ult. I also gave him a team-up with Magneto called Worthy Adversary. Professor X can pull up a small personal forward shield with the metal from his wheelchair. I knew I needed a team-up for these two, but I also felt it was time for Magneto to start giving rather than getting with team-ups. The shield is most similar to Captain America's, with how it only protects the front and is too small to really benefit others. It was quite difficult to think of something actually, but that was only when I was trying to have Charles give Magneto an ability. So, just to prove my point about Magneto being spoiled with team-ups, it was easier to come up with something when he was giving instead. And that is how I would bring the charismatic leader of the X-Men to Marvel Rivals. That makes one Psychic in the tank and support section, and technically the duelist if you count Psylocke, but I don't know if I want to, given none of her abilities utilize her psychic abilities, but whatever. I'd much rather consider Jean Grey as a psychic duelist, but she's not in the game. But making this kit was fun and interesting, looking at the how to realize the character fantasy of Professor Charles Xavier, which ultimately led to him being a backline support that helps his team from afar, behind instead of in, with the added challenge of this game being filled with flankers and divers that would delete him immediately. So I gave him a mind shotgun that can delete the squishies that try anything. In all honesty, this might be too crazy powerful. I gave him a relatively large health pool with the ability to give squishies 100 extra health and speed up cooldowns. But aside from that, maybe making a horrifyingly overpowered support, I think this kit is pretty sweet. But whether it is the best X kit this month is up to you. Let me know which was your favorite. Probably also post a poll Tuesday for everyone to vote on. Give people time to watch this video and get a greater look at the preferences. As always, tell me who you want to see me make a kit for in the future, and what you would have done differently for this kit. And subscribe so we can get to that Discord at 100 subscribers. We are like really close. Like we're at like 90 right now. It's only like 10 more people and we get to Discord. It could be amazing. And you're welcome for not making him an Auralist twink.